Hey guys, welcome back. Now that we've finished all the big components, the boom, the stick, all the little connecting parts, it's time to start knocking out those little nitty-gritty details. The little details are the ones that make your model go from looking good to great. Hydraulic lines, the little custom-built pins, the grab rails, mirrors, every little tiny part that makes the model really stand out a little bit more and make it look a lot more realistic. Let's get started. So what we've got here is the donor bucket from the 349, using it as a mass excavator bucket. And what I'm going to do right now is just liven up some of the details that are already there. So starting at the top here, we have these little spots that I filled in with red ink that indicate where a blade would bolt in to the side, or a cutting edge would bolt onto the side. I haven't seen a whole lot of mass excavators with that. I feel like for that type of work, it would probably work against you to have those on there. I'm not an excavator operator, so I don't know, but I'm just going to drill the holes out, and we're going to go no cutting edge on there. I've also got a little bit of blue ink indicating the lines where the teeth would connect to the bucket. So we're going to kind of open those up a little bit, and then on the back there's a spot that I'm going to drill out. So I'm just going to run through, clean this thing up, make it look a little bit more realistic, but I think it's a really well detailed bucket, and I don't really need to do a whole lot to it to make it pop. A little bit of oil here. You guys know these carbide bits are really sharp. They do a really good job of drilling, but they're also really fragile, so you got to be very gentle with them. Alright, so we got the holes drilled in here, and I drilled this one in the back because this was just a little bit of a nub, so brought some realism out of there. There is a casting line right here that I took out, and there's one more casting line that I want to get out of here. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's like this guy right there, and it just looks kind of funky, and that will show through the paint, so I'm gonna sand that off of there. Again, these are those little tiny details that don't really seem major. They're not exciting or fun to do, but when you get rid of them, it's one less thing that you're gonna go, man, I really wish I would have got rid of that. Is anybody gonna look at that bucket and go, it looks like there might have been casting lines there that somebody got rid of? No, not at all. Nobody's gonna notice this, but they will notice if you don't take it out. So it's one of those weird sort of things. You get noticed for the things you don't do, but you don't get noticed for the things you do. Alright, so this side has been done. This side has not. So if we get the lighting right here so we can see the line, but for the most part all that line is gone. Actually, it is gone. It's not for the most part. Still got this one to work on, so I did this direction first, and then I came in and did this direction, and then I went over it with the sanding stick to kind of blend the rest together. Don't want to get it so smooth that the paint won't stick later, but you don't want to leave those lines in there. It just looks sloppy. Why put all that work into the rest of the model if you're going to leave something like that? Alright, the bucket is done. I have taken all of the casting lines out of the back, added the holes that I wanted to add. Detailed this up a little bit. I didn't get too crazy with it. I think it'd be a little too small of a detail to really see it unless you focused on it, but it did enough to hopefully make it pop a little bit more. And then I got rid of this other weird casting mark that was visible from the front. Alright, now it's time to move on to a piece we were working on last time. We had created this and these pins that I soldered into the side of it. So now I want to make this a little bit more realistic. So I'm going to drill holes through this and insert tiny little pins, and that's what's going to keep this in place. Alright, let's put a hole in it. So this is just temporary. You can see the size of my finger compared to this. That's what's going to hold it together. Eventually I'm going to make this look like a bolt. But that's what's going to be holding it in there. Oh yeah. Alright buckaroos, I'll show you what we're doing here next. So I got to figure out how to make a removable pin system for this. Seems pretty simple, but I also want to make it look realistic. So these are 2mm holes that run through here. So I'm going to use 2mm brass and run it through as my pin, but I need a way to secure it. With this one, I use the little pin through method. I'm going to do the same thing, but my advantage here is that these collars are already attached to this, but this is not something that I can solder to. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to take a little piece of this really thin shim and make a shield that is the same shape as the outside of this. Gotta grind these off of there. And then I'm going to solder collars onto that and glue it down on here so I can run this through it and then drop a pin down through, and it will be secured in place. And then if I ever build another bucket for this, I'd be able to take and remove the pins. Let's do it. One. Alright, so I've machined the surface of this down so that I can apply the little shield with the collars on it, but I decided that I want to use a thicker metal for this, simply because it'll be easier to solder to. So I machined it down just a little bit more so I can use this thicker stuff, and I've already got my little line in there, so that will boop, fit down on there, actually in the other direction. So let's get shaping. Alright, so the pins have been built. I finished the side piece as well, soldered the collars on. Pins are done. Last thing to do is I'm going to drill a little hole right there and right there running through. Then I have these little micro, don't remember where I set them, a bunch of like micro screws and stuff, and I have a little 0.9mm screw that I'll be able to hopefully screw through here with a little driver, and then through there with a little driver, so that the pins lock in place. Down the road, if I decide to build a bucket for this thing and I want to take them out, I will be able to easily remove the pins. Hopefully easily. The hole that I drilled is just a little bit smaller than the screw, which I was hoping was going to work, and it kind of feels like it is. It totally worked. So pin is locked in, is not going anywhere, and I have that tiny little removable screw right there holding it in place. That's awesome. That's really cool. I was hoping that I could make this as realistic as possible, and I think that I have achieved that. I just need to drop this next screw in here, and it is done. Alright guys, my camera battery is about to die. My audio batteries are about to die, and I have just broken the second screw off inside of here. Fixed the broken pin that was in here. I showed you guys earlier I snapped the head off of this screw that was retaining this pin, and it's kind of a pain in the butt, but I drilled it out, rebuilt the pin, and it's good to go. I think I'm gonna take the heads of these and drop them down a little bit. I don't want them to be too flat because I don't want it to look out of scale from that, but it's pretty much the exact same as a full scale one. Pin slides through, then the bolt goes through the collar to retain the pin.